Shakespeare says strong reasons create strong action. Create strong reasons make strong action. And so we need to continually give ourselves authentic, subjective to us, strong reasons to take the strong actions, whether those are, not going out, or, this COVID thing, or to making more sales calls, or to, buying a web camera, whatever the next step you need to take is.
Change is inevitable. Progress is not. That's a direct quote from today's guest, motivational speaker, Dean Lindsay. Of course, I'm Devon Harris, and you're watching Keep On Pushing TV, where we share ideas and insights that are going to challenge and inspire you to keep on pushing. And yeah, man, live your absolute best life. And today, Dean is going to talk to us about how the inevitable change in our lives, we can navigate them, and in the process, grow and make progress. Enjoy.
This is Keep On Pushing TV with Devon Harris.
Hey, Dean, thank you for coming on Keep On Pushing, man. It's really great to have you.
I'm honored to be on here. Thank you, Devon.
It's all good. So, you wear so many hats, man. You're a speaker, you are an MC, you're a musician, you're an author. It just goes on and on. Um, but I also know that you speak a lot about progress and change. At what point in your career did you start focusing on that?
That's a really great question. It was actually pretty early on. I was doing a presentation. Change is always a subject that people are talking about, and I was just kind of in the moment talking, with a small group of. I remember I was in a banking group, a group of bankers, and I was just really thinking about how opportunities are positioned to somebody, how people think about a new opportunity in their life. And that term change agent came to mind. And I thought, nobody wants a change agent. They want progress agents. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I said progress agents, I went, wow, that's it. It's about progress, not change. And that's not just the semantics. It's how an opportunity hits us, how it hits the person people we're trying to lead, the people we're trying to serve, the people we're trying to sell. If they view it as progress, they're going to move towards it. If they view it as change, they're going to resist it. We're going to resist it as humans. And then since that time, no matter what the topic I'm speaking on, the concept of progress and change, comes first, because it's not hard, Devon, to share with people things they should do. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing is to get them to do it. And they're not going to do it unless they view it as progress. And so that's been the driving force of the work that I've done over the last 15 years, is really helping organizations and individuals position their ideas, recommendations, and solutions in such a way that other people are propelled into positive action because they view it as progress.
Yeah, I actually speak about change quite a bit, and I know that people resist change, and I offer my ideas as to why that is. But since I'm the one asking the questions, now I get to ask you, why do you think it is, Dean, that people resist change so much?
Well, that's an interesting statement that you say that. We actually don't resist change. We wake up every day to change. We just want things to get better. If they get better, we don't view it as change, do we?
You're right. It's like some people say they hate surprises, but it's only the surprises that they don't like. Otherwise,
right.
It's wonderful.
Now we're right back to how it hits our gut. If we view it as progress, we move towards it. But we wake up every day to make things better. Well, that's different. So all progress is change, but not all change is progress.
Indeed.
That individual. And so that's what I'm talking about here. And so that's why I studied the work of, everybody, all the big gurus from Tom Hopkins to Tom Peters to Leo Buscaglia to Zig Ziglar to Dennis Waitley to, everybody. And I got down to the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl. He became really his work in logotherapy, and his book Man's Search for Meaning became the foundation of the work that I do. Meaning therapy, logotherapy, meaning therapy, that we do things for meaning. And so I took that concept of meaning, that we do things for reasons, and I started to look at what are the reasons. And I got down to what I call the 6 P's of progress, that we each individually size up an opportunity in our minds as either progress or change based on the perceived consequences that we're going to feel short-term or long-term by taking that action. And those 6 feelings, the 6 P's of progress, are pleasure, peace of mind, profit, prestige, pain, avoidance, and power.
Yeah, I want to unpack those in a minute, Dean. But you just brought up Viktor Frankl, Man's
Yeah.
Search for Meaning, and I agree with you that we live in a world that is constantly changing. It's inevitable. All of us are changing in some way, shape, or form. And you look in the mirror and you have a few extra pounds, and that's not necessarily progress either. I agree with you. Um, but you look at a guy like Viktor Frankl and others, especially during that time, World War II, there in the Nazi concentration camp, and change was forced upon them.
Right.
Um, and that obviously that's not progress. It doesn't make their lives better. He was able to, as we know, make his way out of that environment. How do you, and now today we live in COVID-19 pandemic, again, change, disruption that is forced upon us. What's your advice to people who are find themselves in circumstances where change is forced upon them?
Well, we need to
How
be
do they create
realistic about
progress from that?
well, here's the thing. When I say progress and change, I'm not necessarily saying that the progress still doesn't suck. The progress might still be bad. It's just better than the alternative. During Nazi Germany and the concentration camp, survival was progress. Just mere survival was progress versus the alternative. And some people thought the opposite and took their own lives. I mean, most of them that was forced upon them, but at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that things are gonna, when I say better than the alternative. If somebody walked up to me and said, "Give me $5," I'm gonna say, no. I want the progress of keeping my money, the profit of keeping my money. If they have a gun and they say, "I'm gonna shoot you if you don't give me $5," the progress has changed, and now progress is giving that guy $5 because I want to stay alive. So it's all, I'm not, when I use the word progress and change, I'm not necessarily saying, see, you can, and I use this analogy here in my talk, the seesaw of motive versus action, motivation, motives and action. If people have enough reasons, they'll take the action. And so when I'm talking about progress and change and trying to, sometimes you have to modify your goals, modify your outcomes, and being more realistic about accepting the world as it is and moving forward in the world as it is, versus at some point we got to let go of what our lives were like the 1st of March.
Mm-hmm. No, it's thank you for clarifying that, because it's are certainly driving home that point that progress isn't always
Ideal.
pleasurable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
Pollyanna. I'm not, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's still not big yeah. But compared to being shot, I'm gonna give the guy $5.
yeah. You're right. Because when I think of progress, I should say, I think of people who are feeling better about their lives because they are making forward motion. But listening to you, and I have to agree with you that it may not necessarily be in the best of circumstances. But if you are in a Nazi concentration camp, you're a prisoner of war, or you are in a city that is being devastated by COVID-19 and you are not sick. You didn't contract the virus, or maybe you did contract the virus, but you recovered. It's not Pollyanna, as you said, but you have made progress.
I've never said this before in a podcast. For somebody right now, getting put on a ventilator is progress.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the alternative would be what?
Would be death.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it. I'm not saying it's good, but that's so that we got to look at the world as it getting, that's the unfortunate part. So that's when I talk about those terms. And then let me go back to the 6 P's: pleasure, peace of mind, profit, prestige, pain, avoidance, and power. Well, that person might be obviously the pain avoidance of dying, but then that person might have, he or she might have a family, so they want to live long term for the pleasure of being back with their family, the peace of mind of providing for their family. I mean, it stacks up. It stacks up as far as Shakespeare says, strong reasons create strong action. Create strong reasons, make strong action. And so we need to continually give ourselves authentic, subjective to us, strong reasons to take the strong actions, whether those are, not going out, or, in this COVID thing, or to making more sales calls, or to, buying a web camera, whatever the next step you need to take is.
You touch on the word, you defined the word motivation earlier. It's a contraction of two words, motive and action, right?
Right.
What is your motive? What are your reasons for taking action? And then you quote the man himself, Bill Shakespeare. And so it seems to me then that we have to, if we're just experiencing change and talking about change, there's usually not necessarily a strong reason or motivation for us to change. But when we connect with those reasons, as you're saying, that those authentic reasons, then you are likely to make progress no matter how challenging that environment is.
Devin, I'm actually saying we're doing this already, just not at a grand scale, not as deeply as we could. But whatever, I'm telling you, that's how we make the decisions we choose to make. That human beings, and this is my thoughts about the psychology of how we make decisions. I mean, any of the books I've written could have been called The Psychology of How I Make Decisions, but that doesn't sound flashy enough. Each one of us, consciously or subconsciously, choose the action we're going to take based on that we feel like we're going to feel the unique right mixture of those 6 P's of progress, either short term or long term. There's benefits in eating cheesecake, and there's benefits in not eating cheesecake.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. There's benefits in both. The benefits.
So you talk about, you just mentioned your books, and I know you wrote a book. Is it Big Fat Goals?
Yes, Big Fat. Actually, I got a copy. Pow! That's right.
Yeah. So the benefits of eating cheesecake and the benefits of not eating cheesecake comes down to the goals that you have for yourself.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, see, you're going to get, you got the goal of the short-term goal of pleasure in that moment of the yummy taste in cheesecake.
Exactly.
Or the goal long-term of being the ideal weight. There's pleasure in both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's pleasure in both.
So in what is it, what are the steps, I guess is what I ask you, that helps guide us in terms of the decisions that we make, that's going to connect us with those 6 P's of progress?
The number one thing is to really be very conscious of your motives, and to not remind yourself about the goal, but continually remind and strengthen the reasons behind your goal. Continually stack the deck in your favor as to all the pleasure and peace of mind and profit and prestige you will feel by accomplishing your goal. And to also be realistic about what goals we already have. To be a good parent daily is a goal. To pay your mortgage monthly is a goal. Sometimes we don't think about the goals that we've already, already have on our plate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because you you take them for granted. I guess it becomes routine because you in the
Yeah.
COVID-19
And,
era, but pre-COVID-19, you're working, income is coming in, you're paying the mortgage. It's I guess a task, but now you have to kind of zero in on your current situation because you may not necessarily have the money at the end of the month.
and,
You have
and
to
we,
think about the kids in school and all of that.
yeah, and we also need to realize that these are choices. You don't have to. You don't have to pay your mortgage. What'll happen? There's consequences, but what'll
Yeah.
happen if you don't pay your mortgage?
Yeah, yeah. Of course, you fall into
But it's a choice, right? I mean, that you don't have to pay your taxes. You'll go to jail. You don't have to eat. Devin, I know that sounds silly, but are there people on this planet who have chosen of their own free will not to eat?
hmm
And what happened to them?
for different
They died.
reasons, right? For
Right.
different reasons,
So
absolutely.
these are choices that we're making, and we need to honor that. That we're in the driver's seat of our life. And I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm saying that we already do have a lot of goals. So if you don't get to, if I had a goal in the middle of March that I was going to make this certain amount of money per month, and I was going to do all these certain things, I need to also realize that the daily goal of my kids' well-being is a goal of having a happy home, is a goal of them having a roof over their heads, is a goal. Just a very us honoring in my personal view, honoring the scientists and doing our part to slow the spread is a is a
hmm
is a goal.
It's a goal, and in achieving it, you're making progress, as it were.
Boom! There you
As well.
go, Devin. That's what.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go. You're making
Yeah, man.
and what now, that's it's very odd. It's odd for me, I mean, to be compared to this to the 1st of March of what is progress. If you said, Dean, 1st of March, progress in with the recording of this is you to stay at home as much as possible, I'd be like, I don't think so. But
Yeah.
the
It's like,
reality of
I
the
need to
world
be
kind
on
of,
the road because that's how I make money. I know
is
you're
right.
like, hey, I'm home, so I'm healthy. Let me do this virtual thing. So you're right. So in this case, in this instance, change is progress because we use the word a lot these days. You've pivoted your business. We're pivoting our activities and still moving forward. Maybe not at the rate at which we ideally want to move, but we're still moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm not saying this is fun. I'm not trying to make light of it and go, come on, I can't understand why anybody's not, tense or concerned or focused or stressed. I'm not saying any of that. But I am saying that we have a choice as to how to relate to this um, reality.
Mm. Yeah, because it kind of takes me back to what we just said. The I think the feelings that we associate, yeah, that's what it is. The emotions that we associate with the word progress is, um, I want to say one of elation in the sense that we feel like we're moving forward in leaps and bounds, and everything is not necessarily Pollyannish, but close to it. And what I'm hearing from you, and what I'm really embracing, is this idea. I think I'm doing that consciously. I think subconsciously, I've always done it, knowing that the environment, the situation may not be perfect, but you know how they say, man, it could have been worse. So if it could have been worse, it means that things are not great, but better than how they could have been.
And that's what it means when people say they don't like change. They don't like the change that they think is going to make their lives worse. And sometimes they don't even, we don't, I do the same thing. Sometimes we don't, and I'm not talking about with COVID, because COVID's pretty obviously not good for the planet. I don't think there's many people, though some people found a way to pivot into a positive. I mean, I'm sure they wish we'd never had to deal with this at all.
Yeah.
But sometimes we as humans don't wish to consider the pivot of a new opportunity or a new, one restaurant closes, we go, oh man, that restaurant closed, not really considering that a new restaurant might move in that's even better, you know,
Yeah.
or So there's all sorts of different, there's all sorts of different scenarios where if you're, I feel like I want to put an adjective in front of the word flexible, but if you are, some kind of a defining words to unique, if you're proactively flexible, if you're flexible in a know thyself way, I guess I should say, and
Mm-hmm.
know the people that matter the most to you. Um, there's, there's ways. Sometimes you got to ask more questions. Sometimes you got to dig a little deeper, but there's ways to find, define the good, define sometimes you have to find progress. And that's why the book is called, creating progress in a world of change, not even making progress. Sometimes you're creating it. Sometimes you have to put a new benchmark, a new you got to modify based on the reality that's shifted.
Yeah, so really you're talking about this idea of perspective.
Absolutely.
This is a situation. Um, this is my reality, folks, and it's not just with COVID, right? It's every aspect of our lives. At all times in our lives, we find ourselves in these particular situations, which is not ideal. But how do you get beyond the challenge? How do you get beyond the crisis? COVID crisis, your financial crisis, your health crisis, right?
Yeah.
Um, if you're focusing on just all the negative, like, oh, the restaurant just closed, because you're a creature of habit, and you know that you love that food, but you're right, maybe there's something better around the corner, right?
Right. Or you're comparing yourself to some other person's situation. There's I'm sure every city has a has an area of town that's got the big houses and the big everythings. And if you drive through that neighborhood and you get to your pad, my pad or whatever, and it's just a regular old house, you're like, man, I don't got it going on. But then if you turn on, but then again, there's a whole nother part of the whole world that you can look at and say, oh man, I'm blessed. I'm appreciative. And so gratitude really comes in a lot, appreciation and counting your blessings. Blessings, I should say, not blessings,
Yeah.
is a big part of this as well, of just taking account of your life um, and one day at a time, to a degree. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
gotta try to get, I don't want to say get through the day. I think we can get through the day with a joyful, appreciative, heart. I've got, my wife and two daughters with me. We're all here in this quarantine and pandemic, and we just laugh through the day, make sure that we're making sure we're lifting each other up.
Yeah.
I, yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the whole business of, or the idea of gratitude, because it's I think it's something that we don't express and feel enough of, because again, we are, if you go back to, before March 1st, and look at where you are now, you kind of feel like you're regressing, and it feels that way primarily because we're thinking of all the things that we had planned, and hence all the things that we are missing out on, versus perspective, as we just said, taking a look at where you are right now and going, you know what, I could have, we're having this conversation now, but as I said, but for the grace of God, I could have been one of those persons on a respirator. Now, for somebody who died, being on a respirator would have been progress. But at the same time, we who are not on a respirator have to say, well, this is progress too, because I'm not on a respirator. I am home, spending time with my loved ones.
Yes, progress is 100% subjective. I don't make you. I can't tell you what progress. You can't tell me what progress. It's in the
Mm.
mind of the beholder, and that's why we go back to those 6 P's based on the reality that you have in that moment: pleasure, peace of mind, profit, prestige, pain, avoidance, and power. And so all this stuff is. I mean, I'm not. It's not semantics, and it's not. It's I've simplified it in the explanation of it, but it's really hard to kind of get your head around. You're right. We as a society, you mentioned the word regressed. No doubt, that happened. But that's what we have to accept, is the regression, and then say, now what's progress? Creating progress in the change, in a world of change.
Yeah, yeah. Because the world continues to change. And so let's go back to the business of goal. And we use the word goals, and we use the words perspective, which in my mind kind of speak to this business of vision. So where you are right now, and we've been speaking primarily of the individuals, but it works. I guess applies, the principles applies in the same way to a company, to a business. So a person with a small business or a large company, right? The leaders in those enterprises, whatever level they are at, have to really form create a new vision and build goals from that, don't they?
Yes, they do, and they need to really fight the temptation to view this as change management. The concept of change management is really very limiting, both to the leaders and to the employees and team members. Not just the semantics of the concept of change management, but the way you roll out a change management type of program, because nobody in their mind, as we've already stated, wants to change, and they certainly don't want that change managed. So they don't want the change, and they don't want their change managed. What they want is their progress led. And so that's the reason, and even in the new book, Creating Progress in a World of Change, that I talk about progress leadership, not change management, but progress leadership. And it's a much more authentic, truthful way of looking at whatever the company is going to do next, because the leaders, the people that are in charge, the people that know all the details, the ins and outs of what the world that their company is facing, what the realities their company is facing, whatever next move they make, they're not doing it to change, they're doing it to progress.
I get that on a kind of a 30,000 feet looking down perspective, Dean. Break it down for me a little bit more, though. So we find ourselves, as we said earlier, in this world that's constantly changing, and I agree that it feels better to be making progress, but you have change being forced up on you. And in my mind, perhaps the way you stop the bleeding is by figuring a way to manage the change before you can get to creating the progress. And break it down a little bit more for me, if you could, in terms of how you see it.
Well, what you stated there is built into to progress leadership. If you're putting out the fire is progress. Stopping the bleeding is progress. You're already bleeding. So it's built in. That's still part of that trajectory, but it's also being educating your team as to the reality that we're now in, the reality that we're now facing. When a company downsizes, that's what the company thinks is progress. Right? Isn't that weird to think about?
It's not progress for you who just got
the people leaving. Yeah. Well, that's, but the company itself is trying to progress. They're doing it to progress, not to change. Divorce is progress for somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe not in reality down the road, but they think it is in that moment. And so, it also comes down to explaining the why, not just the what and the how, but really the why these actions need to be taken. And the quote that I refer to a lot in my coaching and training programs is a quote from the author of The Little Prince. And he wrote, "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people together and assign them tasks and work to collect wood, tasks and work to collect wood, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea." Teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea, because if you teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea, they're going to want to be out on the water. They're going to want
to be connected to their purpose by then.
Yes, they got their purpose, their why. they get their connection. They see how that's progress. Because if you just go tell people they need to go collect wood, they're going to be, now they know you want them to collect wood, but it doesn't mean they're going to collect wood. So it's really helping share in a I don't say, you can say inspiring or influential way, how the pivot is the newness, whatever new actions need to be taken are going to benefit the individual and i.e. the organization.
Yeah, because so in our company, in our families, we are given tasks and we give out tasks. You go collect the wood, you go get the nails, you secure the hammers. And so people may do that in building the ship to go to sea, as as in the example that you're using, but it becomes laborious, or can become laborious, because this is not something that's really in their heart. It's just something that they have to do, versus, man, it's light. Like, you hear people talk all the time about the fact that they don't work, right? And I often say that I don't work, but I make a lot of effort, though. Don't get it twisted. There's a lot of effort into what I do. It doesn't feel like work because my heart is so much more into it. And so even when you are experiencing change, as it were, you can still flip that upside down into progress, because you're longing for the immensity of the seas, as you're just saying.
That's it. I mean, it really, that's where everybody has to be connected to. It has to be connected into their heart. And Devin, when you're saying that about you're still putting a lot of effort in, that's it's those personal choices you're making at quite often time at a subconscious level. It's just in your heart. The peace of mind you feel, the pleasure you feel for the work that you're doing. So that's what in long term everybody needs, or they're gonna peter out. They're not gonna last long. And nothing is certain, whether it's part of you being on a team or a relationship or a parenting situation. These are all of this. It's all based on individual choices.
Indeed.
And
So talking about the work that I'm doing and that you are doing, and I know you spend time sharing your brilliant ideas with companies across the board. So if someone wanted to get a better understanding, Dean, of the difference between change and progress, and that, all progress is change, and all change is progress, how do they find you, my man?
hey, thank you, Devin. Well, DeanLindsay.com. Hey, right there, DeanLindsay.com is a great place. Also, my books are on there. I brought copies right here. Honored to say Big Fat Goals won Business Class News Editor's Choice Book of the Year. And we mentioned Frankel. Frankel's longtime assistant, Dr. Jay Levinson, wrote the endorsement on the back cover of that one right there. He liked my concepts and the stuff I wrote out about Dr. Viktor Frankl. But DeanLindsay.com's got videos and a lot of the different programs that we do and clients. So thanks, Devin.
All right, cool. So DeanLindsay.com, ladies and gentlemen, that's where you find. I almost put my foot in my mouth and say, Mr. Change Agent. No, Mr. Progress.
Yeah, and actually, progress agent. That's right.
Mr. Progress Agent at DeanLindsay.com. Hey, Dean, I thank you so much for spending time with us, man. This is obviously we're all experiencing change, and we don't necessarily think about the progress that we need to make, and we are making, even if it's not significant and not necessarily in the best of circumstances. But I think
I am not saying this is not tough. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that, hey, you just do this and do that. But I am saying that you still have the power of your mind, and we have the opportunity to create progress in this weird, wacky, challenging world of change.
Hey, and with that, I mean, I can't even add anything to that. So thank you for spending time with us, and keep on pushing. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this, if you found it valuable, yeah man, leave a comment below and please subscribe. And just as importantly, share it. Don't keep it. Your friends want to make progress as well. So help them. Share this. Until then, until we connect next time, keep on pushing.